I'm Steve Lascalzo, and this is The Way. Welcome to This is The Way podcast's coverage of the Skeleton Crew series. This is the Season 1, Episode 6, recap and discussion. I hope you had a safe and happy new year. A review podcast for Skeleton Crew's Zero Friends Again was recorded just a few minutes after midnight on New Year's, and it should be available now as episode 174. If you have indeed watched all available episodes of Skeleton Crew as of December 31st, 2024, you've got 2 episodes remaining. The podcast episode you're listening to today will recap and discuss episode 6. But, as I like to remind listeners before we go any further, any Star Wars content already available from Lucasfilm and Disney is also fair game for inclusion. If you're okay with that, you're caught up, join us after the jump to Lightspeed. Directing episode 6 of Skeleton Crew is Bryce Dallas Howard. She is the daughter of Ron Howard, former child actor turned award-winning director. Remember, he came in and directed Solo for Disney when Lord and Miller got fired by Kathleen Kennedy. Bryce, like her dad, did some acting first. She was the voice of Yaddle in the Tales of the Jedi Count Dooku arc. That was an animated series. But we've also profiled her before because she has done some directing in Star Wars. She handled episodes of The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett and now Skeleton Crew. The episodes she directs tend to touch more on emotional themes, relationships. I can think of Season 1, Episode 4 of The Mandalorian, the Sanctuary episode. That was where Din Djarin first stopped after having rescued Grogu. He brought him to a place where, remember, he almost settled down. There were episodes with Bo-Katan where she was struggling leading her people. Episode 5 of The Book of Boba Fett was another one, Return of the Mandalorian. Din Djarin faced with being exiled from his order after finally finding them again when they had gone missing. When I say she's focused on emotional themes and relationships, that's not a gender thing. I'm just saying that tends to be her point of view as it comes across in Star Wars. Now, either they're giving her these episodes on purpose or she's picking them. Her next project is a remake of Disney's Flight of the Navigator. The showrunner still John Watts, the co-creator still Christopher Ford, the writer still Myung-Jo Wesner. Now, when I first saw her name after the credits in episode 5, I was stumped how she got the job. But, and that's not criticism, just an observation. Well, now having observed episodes 5 and 6, I think she does quality work. I think she's a good writer. Both 5 and 6 are way better than any one of the ones that were written for The Acolyte.
You think?
The Disney Plus show description on both the thumbnail and the episode page reads, "Relationships fray under the pressures of a difficult journey." So, like I said about the director, this is going to deal with relationships. It also says difficult, not dangerous. But difficult isn't always dangerous, and they almost don't make it out alive in this episode. The runtime reported by Disney Plus is 34 minutes. You can find that on the show page. That reported time has never been accurate, in my opinion. It includes last time on Skeleton Crew footage, all credits, even ones for all of the different foreign language versions that you didn't watch, because you only watched one version and it gives you all the credits. Now that would only be 2 minutes long, 34 minutes, than the shortest episode, which was episode 2. The action, from first shot to cut to black, actually runs 26 minutes, 15 seconds. That's about 7 3/4 minutes difference from the time they claim it takes to watch the show.
Yeah? Good.
So, in case you're comparing, it's about 15 2/3 minutes shorter than episode 1, 2 1/2 minutes longer than episode 2, 5 1/4 minutes shorter than episode 3, 4 1/3 minutes shorter than episode 4, and 10 2/3 minutes shorter than the last episode, which was episode 5.
There is much work to attend to.
Director of photography for episode 6 is David Klein. I believe he and Sean Porter have an even split of episodes, but Klein has been in charge of the cameras for the last 4, so that means Porter is back for episodes 7 and 8. Editor, Andrew S. Eisen. He is back after having done episode 1, and he's got 6 episodes of The Mandalorian and 2 of the Book of Boba Fett in Star Wars, as well as his work on Skeleton Crew. Now, if you listen to all our recap and discussion podcasts, you'll hear about more of the crew in those episodes. But that's all we're going to cover from the production side of things for now. Let's move on to those that make believe in front of the camera.
What do you want?
What's your name?
There are some who call me.
Jude Law has the first acting credit. Rightfully so. It comes right before the core 4 kids, though. I think I cracked the code. My predictions have been right about who follows Mr. Law in every episode. This time, as predicted, it's Kiriana Crater as KB. Then Robert Timothy Smith is Neel. Ravi Cabot Conyers is Wim. Rian Kira Armstrong is Fern. My prediction is that she will be first after Jude Law next week, if it follows the pattern. Nick Frost is the voice of SM33. He's got, I think, just one line here. He comes after the core 4, though. Kelly MacDonald is back as Pocket. If you remember from last week, this is a Disney princess playing a bounty hunter here. Merida would probably make a good pirate, too.
Ach, lang me your lumdy give me a moose nail, Lee, you're gurning away a tear up in his eye. Hey, she back, wee lassie!
The hotelier is once again Julie Ann Emery. Jaleel White plays Gunter, and he did survive the acid. So did Beef, so Dominic Burgess is back. I guess they all did. Glurb is voiced by Jacob Roanhouse. He is usually in makeup or in the special effects departments, but this time he's a Quarren. Snobbiest Snee is voiced by John Hodgman, and if you see him, you probably would recognize him from some comedy project somewhere. He's on Venture Brothers, Adventure Time, the new DuckTales, the live action show The Tick, and he had parts on shows like Community and Parks and Rec. You have to see who he is in real life to understand who I'm talking about. Fred Tatasciore is once again the voice of Brutus, though it's Stephen O. Young in the costume. Chaelt, Chaelt, finally got a speaking role. So we know who Dale Souls is playing, the pirate that first speaks up on Jod's behalf at his pirate code trial. Kona is played by Cisa Gray. She's the one that bites on the spiel that Jod is putting down about always going hungry. She's dressed a little like an ex-stormtrooper. I'm not sure if that's because she was one or just took the armor off of one. Vane is back again, once again played by Marty Matulis. And remember, this is a character we first saw, I believe, in Season 3 of The Mandalorian. Jasper Anderson is listed as performing as the Dowager Alien and as Snobbiest Snee. Not voicing Snobbiest Snee, but performing. Did we see the Dowager Alien in this episode? Maybe in the background? The only one I could think of is that it's the tall, skinny one when Jod emerges from the hatch holding purple and white lays. Not the Mon Cala wearing one, but one of the ones that is holding them. There's also a strange credit I noticed. Performance artist Robin Walsh was Bubbles. I don't really know who that is. And it's not like I can look at a picture of Robin and tell, although it's probably a puppet, unless it's it was one of the ones from episode 7 in Canto Bight. I think the opera creature. I think that the one that looks like that creature in this episode is called Bubbles. It's definitely not the trash crab. There was a promotional video that I saw released on Twitter or X where it detailed hidden Easter eggs found on that trash crab's shell. You know, the mama crab, it is called Tet'niss. Tet'Niss. But yeah, it sounds like tetanus or lockjaw. And I gotta be honest, all these characters coming in from other shows, especially episode 7, I'm not really worried about it. I don't really care that much. I don't think these are the aliens we're looking for.
He can go about his business.
You can go about your business.
Move along.
So you press play on the episode and you watch a little Last Time on Skeleton Crew, Lucasfilm and Star Wars slates, and then we pick up with a scene either right out of the Goonies or right out of The Empire Strikes Back. The kids are heading down what are basically trash tubes. It doesn't seem to be the kind of tubes that get heavy use based on the lack of trash at the end of the chutes. And we don't see any droid drones picking up the trash down there and moving it. So the kids end up sliding out onto safe, snowy ground. I mean, there's scrap there, but they really don't fall on it. There are those trash barges later picking up some kinds of refuse, but I gotta admit, I'd rather have them come out somewhere else. I mean, tell me that there's no way some person or some droid could have ever gotten curious and then sent a droid the wrong way up. I mean, the chutes had lights in them. So I know that's partially for our benefit, but it wasn't pitch dark. It's not like they didn't know that this place was supposedly built on a pirate lair. I mean, that wasn't a secret. The hotelier even mentioned it. So either the trash chutes pre-existed this long deserted pirate lair for an unknown reason, or they were built by the spa, destroying whatever was waiting for those that fell in that trap and leading to a way out, or if it was just an escape chute. I mean, the kids don't get impaled on anything. They don't break bones. They don't even get scratched up. And it didn't start out great. It was a weak either script mention or a directorial decision to have them fall out so safely. I mean, KB does seem to have issues, but not caused by the fall.
Sometimes her ogs go bad and then she can't move. Okay, KB. I'm gonna reset your occipital link. Come on, help me get her on her side.
Is she gonna be okay?
Yeah.
Her ogs go bad? I mean, maybe isolation on At Attin kept her from peak medical care? We've never seen something like this. This must be ancient technology, dating back to the Old Republic. You know, there's fewer minds to evolve and improve on medical technology, so perhaps her cybernetics do cause her issues. Maybe it was something a Bacta could have helped out with. Fern has probably had to help her before, because without much help from KB, she knows exactly what to do. Reset her occipital link. Sounds tricky, but Fern seems to think, hey, she's all better now. We'll learn later that's not the case. And then we get the Skeleton Crew title slate and shift to Jod. Jod apparently found a tunnel that, wouldn't you know it, leads right to the landing pad. With such a short episode, I would have liked for them to put in some other scenes where he had to find his way out, and the kids too. I mean, it just seems way too simple. I know there are some people who will say, well, we're wasting time here, but it's a short episode, like I said. Jod emerges from the hatch adorned with loot. He does not have the lightsaber in hand or on his belt, the one he just turned on in the lair last episode. He is met by the hotel staff, but they're not the only ones, and I think they were getting robbed themselves. You can actually spot Gunter standing behind Jod when he's getting out of the hatch and standing to his feet. Also, I realize Jod's been a pirate. He wants to hang on to those jewels and the jewelry himself. But if you got SM-33 under your control, it just feels a lot smarter to just have him carry a chest up. You know, why would you adorn yourself with jewelry so that everyone sees what you've stolen? Also, Tak Rened may have kept most of the prized things for himself, but this is supposedly a guy who plundered star systems. He's got one armored ship and a handful of men. Doesn't seem like this would be a big payday, unless he was using the riches that he stole for another purpose.
Let's go! Wait, that's just a taste. I'm in line for something even bigger. I'll cut you in. 33! Attack! 33.
Gunter takes Jod prisoner. There were a number of alien species there that we saw in episode 7. Like I mentioned, bubbles. What I noticed, though, was pirates were chasing the kids in the tunnel, and they supposedly had acid poured on them, but they all seem to have survived, including Pocket.
No hard feelings, Dash. It really has been wonderful running into you.
Again, it's a kid's show, and I guess you can't dissolve aliens in acid or show them deformed or something, but a little bit of consequence would have been nice here. Anyway, as you just heard, the X-Wings show up. I guess that's a response to a call from the Lanupa Spa. Maybe just one of the rich patrons. You know, how fast do cops show up when the rich people are in trouble? I guess they show up pretty fast. The kids are still far below. They're in the trash heap, and the landing pad is somehow just right up top there. So I guess it lets people dump their trash out of their ship right off the cliff. But they're down there with a great vantage point for the X-Wings swooping in to dogfight the pirates. Remember, the X-Wings were called by Kim. Jod called them the bad guys. And to Jod, they were. He wasn't lying. To him, they're the bad guys. So it's not a lie, just a certain point of view that he doesn't share with the kids. But I liked seeing the kids learn about the world they're in.
They lost us! It's too bad, because I have the coordinates home and everything. So it's in your brain? Perfect! So now we just need to climb back to our ship. That's not perfect. It's impossible.
Finally, in this scene, KB is standing up to Fern. We've needed to see this scene. Fern does take control of just about every situation, and honestly, in many cases, that's what you need, but not in all cases. To KB, Fern has been walking all over her for probably years. Fern even mistakes KB's mood and thinks it's the boys that are the cause of the trouble, telling Wim and Neel, you stay behind. So she goes over by herself to KB, asks, are you okay? And then she launches into a plot to get her way.
You are okay, right? So I just know Wim's gonna fight me on climbing the cliff. How should we play it? Because, to be honest, I don't even know if Neel's gonna be able to... Maybe we should consider some other options. Well, we have to get back to the ship, right?
She's kind of insufferable. And I found it strange in this show that KB is the one worried about having friends, when Fern is much more in danger of having none. KB nails it.
I can't think of any other options. You can't. So you just assume there aren't any? Hey, KB, why are you... Because if you were actually interested, you'd actually be listening for once. And maybe we'd actually talk about something. If there's something so important that you want to tell me, then go ahead.
Fern is clueless. She is just clueless. Now, is that worse than naive? Because Wim assumes these crabs that start to slowly swarm them are intelligent because they can speak. And we all know where we've heard that before, right?
See, they can talk. And that means they're intelligent. They can help.
I speak.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
That was the first thing I thought of when he talked about how they speak and they must want to help. Fern wants to climb. Wim says it's dangerous. Neel, hey, I don't want to stay with the crabs. KB, she's tired of Fern's attitude.
Follow.
I'm with Wim. Fine. I guess we're splitting up.
While the kids split in two, Jod is on his way to a space station. It is not Port Borgo. It seems to be where the pirates that Jod was leading at one time call home. It's important to remember, Jod was the leader of this group. He may have made enemies, but he also probably made some friends. Brutus is there judging Silvo for crimes. So why did they just imprison him in the first place? Why wouldn't they have just killed him then? After his first job, or the first job that we saw him take with them, went bad. Is there any damage caused the direct result of him that wasn't him trying to get away? I mean, isn't that what pirates do? He was just trying to get away, and if they would have let him, he would have just gone away by himself. It's a weak premise. He's on trial. I mean, he escaped. Him getting sentenced to death by airlock seems dumb here, especially when he actually does have loot on him when he gets out of the hatch at Lanupa. Did Gunter just take it all for himself? At any rate, here he is getting sentenced. Then one of the pirates, and it is Dale Souls as Chailt. We mentioned her a few times in the credits. We saw her name and like, who is she? What does she do? Well, finally, she gets a speaking role. Chailt brings up the pirate code. Right of equal time, right of last appeal. Sounds a lot like another pirate movie line.
Parsley, parsley.
Parlay? That's the one. Parlay. Parlay.
Parlay. Down to the depths, whatever mutton they thought of parlay.
That would be the French.
Wait! What of equal time? Right of last appeal. So says the pirate's code.
The idea of a pirate code is weird. Honor amongst thieves. The rule of two with the Sith. But if you're killing yourselves and robbing yourselves as much as who you call your enemy, well, the most successful crews are going to be the ones that manage to find a way to work together, a working truce. The thing that makes this work here is that Jod does have people on his side. We saw him leading the crew at the beginning of the series, and he led them into that battle for one measly credit. He's going to have to appeal to a group that he's already burned, but maybe he was a good captain? It turns out his appeal is masterful. He doesn't appear panicked. He's calm. He even seems to waste his given time speaking. It's calculated. And it's not going so well at the beginning. He's reminding them about all that they don't have.
Because all I have are scraps.
What's he on about?
Just kill him already.
Say anything to save his skin.
Then Jod starts trying to relate. It seems that it starts to work. I think that's why Brutus chimes in. But Brutus may have well said, "Dead men tell no tales," right there in the middle.
Enough of this glitter speech, Silvo. The words of a dead man are worthless.
Plasma still runs, sir.
Pretty good line. And Jod doesn't come out and just say, "Hey, there's an Old Republic mint." He does implore them all to start imagining. Imagine this place where their take never runs out. He singles out the Quarren Glurb and promises him an ocean. Then he moves to a woman wearing bits of old stormtrooper armor. He apologizes to Kona for failing her and says, "You should have headed your own group." I mean, this tactic where he's relating to individuals in this group is working.
I'll bite Silvo. What's the trick?
No trick. Just a virgin gleam of brand new Old Republic credits.
Old Republic credits. Vane helps him out, spotting one that flipped in the air, and then remembers it looks like the ones that Wim was showing off at Port Borgo when he was trying to buy food.
Just like the creds them brats were flashing. I told you they were real.
They're real! And I know where they make them! I know where they make them, because I heard it from Tak Renatac.
Silvo, Jod, says, "Hey, it's all real." He knows where they make them because he heard it from Tak Renad himself. Brutus has had enough of Silvo. Tak Renad's dead, right? Then Silvo starts singing an old space shanty.
Renad soared away, away, aboard the Onyx Cinder, and never was he seen again, for at Attin he did plunder.
Jod seems to sense some weakness, or the tide going his way in pirate speak. So he gets in a dig at Brutus, calling him a very capable first mate.
We all know Brutus makes a very capable first mate. You stick with him, you'll get a meager reward. Come with me. I'll give you the entire Criffin galaxy.
Time's up!
Criffing, we've talked about that word before. It's kind of like a little curse word in Star Wars. It started, I think, in Legends. Jod is trying to save his own skin here. Now, would he have sold out the planet on his own? Probably not, but also because he wanted to steal it all for himself. So Jod isn't the worst kind of villain, but he's no Jedi. I don't think that's his fault. I remain convinced Jod here is doing what he could to survive. He's been doing that since Order 66, I think. And I hope we get to hear that's the case.
We'll go see this At Attin. If there's no treasure, you're going for a little ride.
Back in the trash dump of Lanupa, Wim asks KB if she came with him because she believes in him, or is she just mad at Fern? She doesn't comment, and then he sees a droid head with a crab crawling out of the eye, which reminds him of SM-33. Wim has compassion. Fern does not. But that's not really the big part of the scene. He sees KB is almost motionless. She needs repairs, and Wim is going to have to scavenge. Wim now becomes like a crab, searching through the garbage to find something to help a cyborg survive.
I can't move. My ogs are corroded. Corroded? Gather some droid servos. And maybe we can fix it.
Wim has heroic qualities. He just doesn't know it. He thinks he has to wield a lightsaber or be a Jedi, but he's still a hero. Fern, on the other hand, she's a motivator. She's brave, but she also doesn't listen. She can climb the tower easily or the side of the mountain easily. So she calls it easy. Now, this is something I try to tell my daughters. Don't say it's easy, because for someone else it might not be. And great, it's easy for you. You don't have to call out that. Neel likens Fern's limbs to a spider. Could have been like a crab, but I guess that would be too on the nose for this episode. He is also differently abled. He's not calling her names. He's just calling her out. The one failure in this show so far is the writer is giving her an immediate out. I think she should have had to try and think and listen more to Neel. Instead, she immediately spots rope on the side. I think the script should have had them climb back down to the bottom, have her think about it for a little bit, and then see the rope. This is too easy. That's a big contrast to what's going on with Wim and KB. I don't think she earns a turn here. Wim is basically going to have to do some tinkering in KB's head. Outside in a non-hygienic trash heap. He guesses this is why KB didn't want to climb, and he's already doing more with KB than Fern ever has. He is listening.
She's not exactly living in the real world herself. Oh, yeah, totally. What do you mean?
Wim does make a point that Fern doesn't treat her any different than a fully able-bodied person and thinks, hey, wait, that might not be too bad.
Ever since my accident, Fern always assumed I could do anything she could. Like I'm not different. Okay, well, that sounds good. But I am different.
KB gives us her perspective.
She doesn't have patience for that. You know how she is. And I'll have 0 friends again. It's so dumb. Anyway, you could just be friends with me and Neel.
It's KB with the line in the dialogue that is the same as the title of the episode. 0 friends again. It's also the greatest fear a kid can have. What if you have 0 friends again? Hey, that's a big parent fear too. I'm a parent. What if my kid doesn't have any friends? Wim shows strength. He offers immediately, hey, you can be friends with me and Neel. So instead of 1 friend who uses her, she would have 2 new friends. And all the talk is nice, and it's important, but KB does need him to hurry. She tells him, melt the wires. Pour the metal into a mold. you got to build a metallic rod that will serve as a fuse. I can't help but think that KB really could use a stop at a New Republic medical facility. I'm hoping that's what awaits us, that at the end of all this, that she's going to find some new technology that will help her live a better life, because I thought it was weird. She's a little like Vader here. She's relying on technology to keep her alive. And in Vader's case, it was his anger helping to keep him alive. KB being upset actually puts her in greater danger here, though. They build the part. They put her back together. KB, though, seems to shut down. And then she sparks to life after a beat. Wim was scared, but he gets the compliment he always dreamed of getting. He reached KB.
That was close. To what? Total system shutdown. What? Probably thought it would be more exciting to save someone's life. Anyway, thanks, Jedi.
I'm telling you, this is one of the episodes that I think is really important. Not a lot happened in it, but I was really happy to see this, and my kids loved it. I loved it too. I mean, how I wish someone would have called me a Jedi when I was 10. But this is the kind of thing that I think kids want to see. This is much more for the kids than it is for adults, this episode. Fern and Neel have been climbing with their improvised rope rigging. Neel spots the onyx cinder being carted off to the trash heap. Notably, it's heavier than the droid drone lifters seem to expect for a ship its size. That'll come into play. It turns out, they've been climbing for nothing. Fern's plan would not have worked. Although she couldn't have known and they couldn't have known, nor could they have guessed that the trash pile it was going to be dragged to would bring them across a giant crab monster.
How come I'm always wrong about who's the good guy?
Tet'niss, that giant crab, is not friendly, does not appear to speak. The crabs were simply repeating a spoken word, and I don't even know if it was the crabs or maybe some of the droid parts that were on their shells that were doing that repeating. Anyway, KB and Wim are in big trouble. Lucky, Fern and Neel made the leap of their lives onto one of the lifter droids, and they're going to save the day. A little too easy for me, a little too dangerous, especially both of them being tied together with rope. I did think a little bit of Vader and Obi-Wan on Mustafar leaping onto the lava droids. I don't know if that was because the CGI looked a little similar, but at any rate, Fern can also pilot the drone with a joystick. I think I saw an astromech pop its head up and look around, but anyway, they got lucky. They found the piloting drone, or the one that has the capability to do that, or maybe all of them do. She was a good speeder rider, as we saw in episode 1, so I guess that gives us what we need to know she can do this driving. She even gets them in close enough for Wim and KB to jump on as well. Now, again, I think you do it a little differently. It's unbelievable happening at that speed. They could have just done it, swoop in, slow down, stop, and then they can hop on, but that's not how they did it. They were going at speed, they jumped on, they all got on safely, nobody's hanging on by for dear life, and then the crab launches a boulder at one of them, one of the droid lifter drones. It hits one of the other ones, thankfully, but the onyx cinder still starts to spin out of control, and they all crash land.
Any broken bones? Neel, that was amazing! We're getting good at falling.
But let's make that the last time.
KB! KB, are you okay?
The dialogue here does kind of diffuse a little bit of the unbelievability. The kids are somehow alright, but Wim stays positive, compliments everyone on the adventure. Still, let's not do that again, right? Fern apparently learns her lesson. I just don't think she earned it. I don't think that's the case at all. I think they made it way too easy for her to have growth. But she does make up with KB, she apologizes, and in true victim form, KB also apologizes, and she did nothing wrong.
I was afraid to tell you when there's things I can't do. It's okay. You're my best friend,
I don't think it was earned. I think it makes Fern a weaker character because of it. If you just showed her learning her lesson, I think I feel differently about the character, but I think she's insufferable. I mean, it could have been in the episode. This was a short episode. But I also think that the action was so short that maybe the director or the writer or whoever was producing the show just felt like, listen, we gotta get to it. I don't know if that's the script's fault. Is that editing, directing? I don't know. But Fern definitely doesn't go through enough here to show me a turnaround, but she gets it. But they're not out of the trash dump yet. They hear a scrapper crawler tearing up something over a mound, so they climb to the top of it. The onyx cinder is in the path of this scrapper. They have to act fast. If they don't get down there and take off, well, they're going to be stranded for at least another episode.
We gotta save our ship!
SOS, save our ship. They board. KB seems to have remembered the startup sequence. I think that's because she's part cyborg or part droid. She also takes command. That's something that should have been happening all along. She says, I'll go jumpstart the engine. She tells Neel pilot ship because he did it before with Jod. The scrapper latches onto the front of the ship. Wim falls back on his last job on the cinder when it was in crisis. He goes to the guns. Fern reverts to her bossiness. So did she learn anything? I don't know. She's not listening, but she's got pushover Neel in the cockpit there with her, so he goes right along with the plan. She will steer, and you can hit the throttle. Oh, thanks. KB, meanwhile, throttles, as in hits, the engine. You know, it's like smacking the side of the TV or maybe the NES to get it stopped glitching. That's an 80s reference, kids. Wim, he gets to the gun, he starts firing at the scrapper to no avail. It's either invincible or it isn't. It's not too invincible, but Wim is an absolutist. Still, it works for me. He's a kid. Kids aren't masters of language, even if it's a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away and the language is basic. The kids are trying everything they can to free this ship. The scrapper has the hull in its grasp. And it was a heavy Toy Story 3 vibe for me. You know, when the toys were stuck in the incinerator. There's no claw this time to save them. Just that old shiny button from episode 2 that you're not supposed to touch.
The emergency hull demolition sequencer! That 33 said never to touch? He said never, ever, ever touch it!
They are left with no choice here. I mean, they were going to die if they didn't do something. And for once, Fern does what Wim would have done if he was there. He would just hit the button. Turns out old Tack Renard did armor his ship like he mentioned in that hologram. And I'm pretty sure SM33 mentioned it for us too. And it's like Chekhov's gun here, if you're familiar with that playwriting technique. If you see it, it's going to play a part. So Tack Renard put this plan in place to ditch the armor if he ever got into any kinds of space entanglements that called for it, where a sleeker ship would be wiser than the heavily armored one. So like a snake shedding its skin, or a crab molting from its shell, or like a hermit crab removing its old shell. This old piece of junk is seemingly reborn. The new ship, or the ship that was inside all that armor, looks pristine, sleek. It's free of that armor now, and all that's left is for someone to call dibs.
When's it on the new ship?
I don't know what to call episodes like these. It's not a fun episode. It's not written terribly, but it does have some issues. it's a necessary kind of episode, though. We can't just see the kids go down the trap at the end of the last episode and then pick up with them back on their way to At Attin. There was a little bit of that in some of the episodes this season. But there needs to be this story in episodic television that has some growth. It's got to get us there. It's not a terrible story. It doesn't have a lot of action, but it's necessary. So I don't know what to call this, and I don't know where I would put this as far as favorite episodes. There were parts that I loved. I've been saying Fern needs to learn her attitude is awful, but then again, I'm not sure that what we got was realistic in serving to teach her lesson. I think part of what makes episodes like these important is also what makes them slightly boring. There was a problem presented, and you have to solve it quickly. You can't let it go on for several episodes. Maybe if there were 20-something episodes in a season, you could do that. And I'm not saying that you always have to solve the problem in the episode in episodic television either. Not in the same episode. I mean, this was one of the shorter episodes, though. This was a really short one. We've seen Fern being bossy and annoying for 5 episodes. We've seen Wim being naive. Wim's still Wim, and somehow Fern did grow in less than 27 minutes. And by the way, her ideas worked. I mean, in the real world, that would just reinforce her attitude. And I think most people know that. I just think they want to see this girl boss come out ahead. It's also just Star Wars, though. I mean, we want heroes to overcome obstacles, and we want them to learn something. It just feels forced with Fern, so that makes me not like the character, and I want to like all of the kids. I like Wim. I think he's naive. I like KB. I think she's got her weaknesses too. Neel has also got some weaknesses, but listen, I'm not calling out the actress. The actress, Rian Kira Armstrong, is doing a great job. I just feel like Disney and Lucasfilm have a message and they're pushing it. Through episodes 1 through 6, it appears that's how it's going to be, and let's see what happens with 7 and 8. We still have the mystery about Tak Rened to uncover. Like, did he die, or is he still alive, or did he become part of the At Attin culture? The Core 4 have to return to their home. Jod has to prove he's not a bad guy, if he's not a bad guy. The planet has to defend itself, too. And we have to find out about this mysterious supervisor. Episode 7 may have more answers, and it's going to be the first to debut in 2025, Tuesday, January 7th. The next week after that, we'll see the finale streaming on January 14th, 2025. There is still time to send in your thoughts. Email This Is The Way Podcast headquarters at thisisthewaypodcast@gmail.com. We have Instagram, Facebook, X. They got the address at This Is The Way Pod. Email really is the best way to be heard, though. Thank you for listening to This Is The Way Podcast's recap and discussion of Skeleton Crew's 6th episode of Season 1 called Zero Friends Again. I'm your host, Steve Lascalzo, and this is The Way. May the Force be with you, always.